Ready?
I think so.
Give us 1 second, I think we're just about ready.
Should not be.
Starts.
Linda Brown, wait. He's phone. For the bank.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. Father, as we come before you again tonight, Lord, we're asking for wisdom and guidance as we set about to do the business for the city of Jackson. Lord, I pray for our city. I pray for our administration and all those that work diligently to help to improve our city, Lord. I ask you to give us wisdom and guidance, protect our citizens, bless this city, Lord. I pray that your blessings would just be poured out upon it as we continue to grow and prosper as an entity, and I thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to call this evening's meeting of the Jackson City Council to order. I apologize to those of you who are joining us online. We had a little technical difficulty here getting started, but I think we're on the right track. So I will ask Ms. Kuhn for roll call, please.
Foster.
Here.
Ondera.
Here.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Here.
Newkirk.
Here.
Crabtree.
Here.
Bach.
Here.
In the recognition area, turn it over to Mayor Evans.
Yes, I have one special recognition tonight that I want to bring up. Sam, if you'll come up, I want to introduce to you guys. Evening, Sam. This is our newest police officer, Sam Payne. Was hired there a few weeks ago. He comes to us from Gallia County, and I promise I wouldn't say anything else. He can say what he wants to say, or the chief can say something, but this is Sam Payne.
Well, not much to say. I'm easy going. I love to work, so I'm happy you guys had me up here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sam has come to us with some prior experience. He has already hit the ground running. Did about 2 weeks of training with other officers. He's now out on his own. We have a very interestingly mapped city with street names that don't relate to one another as you drive through them. And as a person who didn't grow up here myself, it is one of the hardest cities to learn. But that's really about the only curve left for Sam. Sam did a traffic stop last night, or 2 nights ago in town. Recovered 3 ounces of methamphetamine and about 8 grams of fentanyl. So he's getting right into the kind of business that we're looking at. So Sam is a wonderful addition. Sam brings our number up to 11, and our maximum is 12. Currently, we actually have one waiting, going through a hiring process. And that has really helped with the addition of each one of these officers. It really helps us take that more multi-dimensional role in the community that we're looking to do as far as some community service aspects, obviously some enforcement, and some proactive enforcement on some of these things that, you know, we all see and feel victimized by just knowing exists. I've been here since 5 this morning. We just got done with a joint operation with the Sheriff's Office today, doing a buy bust in the city with somebody who's been dealing large weight in methamphetamine. That's still a pending case. I won't give you a lot of details, but just to let you know, these are the kind of things that this administration has really pushed to attack some of this. And we feel like we're doing that to the best of our ability with what we have, and every additional officer, especially competent officers, just makes it that much easier for us. So we appreciate all the support, the continued support, and we're going to continue with our mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Payne.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Welcome to Jackson.
Want a picture? Pete, Sam, Pete wants a picture, and I know you're going to run out of here. So let's get it now. That's all right.
Same. Same thing.
Come on, you got shorts on.
Okay, gentlemen. All 3. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Closer. 1,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything else, Mayor Evans?
That's all.
Next, we didn't have anyone sign in to speak, I don't believe, this evening, so we'll move into the approval of the minutes. We will start with the regular session minutes that we had taken from June the 13th. Any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented to council? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Mr. Andera, Mr. Newkirk, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Next, we'd like to look at the minutes from the special meeting on June the 16th. Any objections or corrections to the minutes as presented to council this evening? Hearing none, we'd entertain a motion to accept. Mr. Bob, a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Colby is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Next, we'll go into the committee reports. We will start with utility. Mr. Andera?
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Andera. Next, on budget and finance, Ms. Colby?
No report.
Thank you, Ms. Colby. Next, on police, fire, and traffic, Mr. Foster?
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. And on the service committee, Mr. Peters?
No report, other than I would like to have a committee meeting for July 11th if we could. I don't know if there's anything else scheduled.
There is nothing at this time.
Could we set it for 6:30? It's in regards to the ongoing Fairmont Cemetery
Okay.
dealing.
All right. So that will be cemetery, and would be the topic for the service committee then at 6:30 on the 11th.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Anything else?
Nope, that's all, thank you.
Auditor's report, Mr. Reed.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Kirby.
Have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Police report, Chief Hench.
I think I still kind of throw over what the...
That's all right. It was all good stuff, so. Mayor's report, Mayor Evans.
Yes, a couple things. We have a new police contract with the Teamsters. I'll give you some highlights. You haven't seen it yet. We've had a preliminary review, and there is an ordinance tonight for first reading for you regarding it. So I'll wait till we get to that and give you a couple more details. I mostly just want to update you on projects because there is a ton of projects going on around town, pretty much all over town. Just so you're aware, really don't need any action tonight on anything, but there's a lot of projects, a lot of interruptions to traffic. Tomorrow morning we've got a scheduled interruption of electric even. Columbia Gas continues their work over on the west side of town. Tropic, Globe, South Street in that area. We continue working on curb work on Morton Street and started this week on Broadway, right downtown, Broadway between Main and Water. Took out a lot of courthouse parking and stuff there temporarily. So you might get some complaints there. Paving continues. We started paving last week, continuing this week on the south end of town, Gay Street, Redondo area. We've milled all that neighborhood today. We got concrete repairs to a bad street, AC Avenue, going on out on AC Avenue. So we'll have in the next week or so a lot of single lane traffic there. Railroad today started replacing the crossing there at Gay Street. Kind of jumped in and did it, try to get ahead of our paver because we're paving Gay Street. I think, David, they're going to Main Street next.
I think they're going to go south of town and pick up the one there on 93.
Okay.
And then come back up to the one by McDonald's.
Okay, they've got to do 93 south of town, which is outside the city, by the way, but we get a lot of complaints about it. And then they got to do Main Street there beside People's Bank ahead of ODOT paving Main Street there, hopefully yet this summer. So they'll be there in a couple weeks, and they were talking about shutting Main Street down for that repair. They were working with ODOT. We want them to try to keep at least halfway open. We've got the week after next, a new sanitary manhole going in right in the middle of Main Street, right out in front of Wendy's. That will be a traffic interruption for probably 3 or 4 days over the weekend. They hope to do it. ODOT had a job meeting last week. They're getting ready to start their signal upgrades that we've talked about for about a year now on the Main Street signals. They've got to do that ahead of that paving, Main Street paving too. They're supposed to start next week. They will be crossing the street with some control lines and stuff, so they'll be interrupting traffic. Probably the biggest thing that I want to update you on is the Broadway Street paving, that we have no update on the Broadway Street paving. We get more questions about that than anything, than probably all the others combined. It's been in the works for years now, but it is controlled and scheduled by ODOT. David spent the afternoon trying to get a date from them. They haven't even awarded a contract on it yet. We hope they're still going to pave East Broadway this year, but as soon as we have information, we'll share it. We have none yet. They're supposed to pave it. The money's all, the city received a grant to pave part of it, but it is an ODOT project, just like the Main Street paving. They control the schedule. They call the shots. And then the High Street Bridge is getting ready to be replaced. That also has been in the works for a while. It's also an ODOT project, but in preparation of that, our city department, our electric department is rerouting some electric in the morning, and that's the reason for the shutdown in that neighborhood over there tomorrow morning for a couple hours. All the affected residents were notified today with door hangers, so that they won't be shocked. David, what did I miss? Anything? That's a lot. There's a lot going on around town, folks. A lot going on, but it's all, we get a lot of complaints and there's a street shut down or there's traffic backed up or whatever, but it's all to make improvements and you can't do it without it. So we try to accommodate, we try to notify as much as possible. I know David focuses on that, trying to get notices out when the street's going to be closed. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes, the gas company just closes the street and we don't know till we get a complaint. So, but a lot going on, but it's all good stuff.
Get the Pearl Street grant. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we applied for a city, through OVRDC to repave Pearl Street and got a grant for that. So that's all we know so far. We know we've been awarded a grant for that, so we'll be adding that to our paving list. I don't know if it'll be this year or not. Likely it'll be next year. We also have been notified through Senator Peterson's office that we are receiving a capital grant money. You might have heard on the radio, I think it was this morning, that Wellston received part of a capital grant funding, and we are too, $150,000 for improvements at Lake Hammertown for boat access. We've also recently been notified that we're going to receive an ODNR paddling grant. All this is probably going to pan out for next year, next spring, but it's all good news to where if it all comes through, we're going to be adding a new boat ramp at Lake Hammertown, a new and improved boat ramp with some dock facilities and some kayak launching facilities, some more additional boat parking, and it'll all be at least somewhat handicap accessible. So it's hard to do when you're down over the bank, but it's all, the intent is to make it all handicap accessible. And one more grant I was going to mention, if I forget which one.
We got the skateboard too and stuff we're doing out there.
The skateboard park up at Hillcrest that we're adding some additional pieces to for younger kids is in manufacturing right now. We did receive that grant and hired the people that put it in the first originally. It's in the works. It's being manufactured right now. It's all real heavy duty steel stuff. Should match similar to what was there. Also at the pool, you might noticed we're completing the second shelter house up there. That we're doing all in-house. We're doing all that work in-house. And I think this week, the second one will be completed, and then we've got the fencing contractor to come in to put gates to allow access for use of the new shelters. They'll be used by the pool, when the pool's open, and they can be used, chains of locking, and they can be used by the public when the pool's closed. So they'll be usable year-round. And there's one other one I can't think about, but it's all good stuff, getting a lot of good grants. I know what it is. The last one, it's aggravating me to death. The DOD grant, they're supposed to announce this week, the DOD demolition grant. They've already announced, there was two parts. It was $500,000 to each county, announced last year. We applied through the county, through the land bank, we all went together. There was, I think, about 40 projects or something, demolition projects. 14, I think, are in the city of Jackson. It's countywide. But they've just been sitting on it. And so I reached out to Representative Stevens today. He thinks it will be announced this week. They announced last week the industrial part of it, the brownfield cleanup throughout the state. We're hoping they'll announce our approval of our projects and release the money so we can get them done yet this year. But there's 14 in the city of Jackson. I forget how many of them was commercial. Most of them was residential that we didn't have any other way to fund. And so it's all good news. I know that's a lot, but I just want y'all to be informed of what's going on. Thank you.
Mayor, speaking of 4th of July festivities, do you have that schedule, the fireworks and the parade and?
Sunday, July 3rd. Our festivities are traditionally on July 3rd, so that continues this year. There'll be activities in the afternoon at the park and vendors, food vendors. There'll be music in the park. The parade starts at 8. Y'all are welcome to come. Bring whatever you got. If you want to enter the parade, there's no registration. Just show up on Broadway, down about the museum, Broadway, to get in the lineup. Our fire department sponsors this and organizes it, or the fire association, I should say. Parade takes off at 8, goes out to Manpower Park area, where we'll disperse it out there, and then the fireworks are at 10. And they are from the traditional location, once again sponsored by the Fire Association and many business and individual contributors and donors.
Questions for the mayor? Bob?
Is the paving behind somewhat? I've got a street I live on. It has no parking signs, and they were for the 20th through the 24th.
That Payne Street got delayed.
Yeah.
And we rearranged, so each week, David and Amy are trying to put out a list of the streets we intend to pave, the contractor intends to pave the next week, but it's not always going to be accurate because things change and the weather changes. Payne Street is not, paving is not behind, but Payne Street got moved to a different place in the schedule. It'll still be done.
Well, I just asked because people have asked me about the signs.
Yeah, they need to take them signs down and repost them when we reschedule them. That's probably just an oversight.
I told them I'd find out and if to keep the signs so that, you don't have to go through the expense of another sign, that they can put them back up. Or the police department, or it was by the orders of the police, so I don't know who put them on.
It is, but it's the contractor putting them out, so
Okay.
we'll let them know they need to pull them ones in and
Okay.
put them back out at the appropriate time.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Andrew?
I just had one quick, the High Street Bridge project.
Yeah.
I'm glad that ODOT's taking care of that, but why is that an ODOT project?
David, can you answer that? Because I can't. All I know is that project was in the works before we came in,
Right.
and it's just now getting ready to happen.
Yep. I couldn't tell you.
I'm assuming.
I was just curious.
I'm assuming because of the funding. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I can't answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Rondeau. Any other questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Swikammer?
Yeah, the mayor and I went through, and he's covered almost all of them. The only one I want to add is on the fireworks. you know, Ohio's new fireworks law has been signed and is in effect, but the city of Jackson still has a codified ordinance 1519-04, Section B. Still says, "No person shall discharge, ignite, or explode any fireworks in the municipality." And I've already spoken to the police chief, and before I spoke to him, he had already covered it with his folks. Right now, the city still has that ordinance in play, and so I just want the public to be aware that just because Ohio changed their laws, the last section of that states that the municipalities, the local government, really control it within municipalities, and that law is still upon Jackson's books.
Peters?
Great minds think alike, because I asked Joe about that. I was going to bring it up in new business, but you got it all covered. Thank you.
Other questions for the service director? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the ordinance and resolutions that we have. We have three this evening to discuss. We'll begin with ordinance 2822. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance rezoning from industrial I to business B3, a 5.491 parcel owned by Jackson Grandview Builders Incorporated and located on AC Avenue in the city of Jackson, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Could we have a motion to accept resolution 2822 as presented to council this evening?
So move.
Mr. Peters, is there a second? Mr. Andera? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion.
I have a question. On the survey, it shows like what appears to be like a street in there, maybe, or is that not what that is? Like, my question is like, who does the city have to? Like, I know all the utilities are there, but if like a street needs to be put in there, is that something that someone else fits the bill for, or is that on the city?
If you're looking at the picture to where you can read it, at the top of the property is on AC Avenue, so that would be their access.
Okay, so I'm talking about the dotted line that would be towards the bottom. Is that already McCarty Lane?
There is a right-of-way, it's laid out, it's not an improved, it's basically a dirt trail right now. So in the event that if something was going to be done, it would have to be brought up to, it would have to be done at spec and then offered to the city, and the city would have to determine if they wanted to accept it or not.
Okay.
The dotted line at the bottom of the sheet you're looking at is electrical easements.
Okay. But he answered my question.
We would not be obligated to build any streets or anything like that at our expense, no. I do know that the property owner had presented some potential tenants, or a new owner that wants to build in there a restaurant, some retail businesses, and a rehab center. And I think for those different businesses, the service director told you before, they would still need, after it's rezoned, they would still possibly need some variances for conditional uses.
Yeah.
So this would be step one.
Other questions, discussion? Any further action to be taken on resolution ordinance 2822? Hearing none, this constitutes the first reading of ordinance 2822. We'll move on to ordinance 2922. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance rezoning from industrial I to O, property owned by the Jackson Historical Society and located at 320 East Broadway in the city of Jackson, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Could I have a motion to accept ordinance 2622 as presented to council this evening? Mr. Ander, is there a second? Mr. Bob? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Discussion. There's a question back from Mr. Martin.
Am I in order?
Yes, please step to the mic.
Folks, this is the same zoning question we had during the zoning hearing, same property, and after our discussion then, we kind of sat back there and cut a deal. The issue is that the business across the street wants to, at some point perhaps, acquire the lots on Water Street. I'm not talking about the Salt Lake Village museum pieces that you see down there, the buildings and the depot building and the caboose. I'm talking about the lots that we have on Water Street. And the reason we needed that as an O was for storage. We were planning for the storage building there. And the folks across the way say, hey, I'll tell you what we'll do. You don't need to put that ugly building in there. We'll give you a lease for some storage in our building. And that was attractive enough to us that I asked Mr. Kirby to make a slight change in the ordinance so that we would be shaving out of the zoning change the half lots fronting on Water Street, keeping in the ordinance the half lots north, which are the actual Salt Village lots, so that if you, and we would hope, suspend rules and pass the ordinance this evening, would give us the opportunity to, for example, start work. You want us to start work down there, and we want us to start work down there, and the zoning enforcement officer says you need the zone. So we're requesting, if you would feel so, that you could, with this slight change, pass the ordinance as an emergency. Joe, did I say that right? Everything's...
You did. I'm not sure it can be done today, though. I was looking to see if we could amend that. The statute does require that it has to be approved by an attorney. And so I pulled the old email up. The legal we have is approved here. So I think we actually have to have that approved. So we'll have to make the change and he'll have to approve it. I don't think it requires any new hearings or any new public notices because we're shrinking the size.
Okay, should we, you and I have a chat before the next council meeting then?
So there would need to be an amendment. So you're basically asking to amend your petition to include a smaller piece, but we'll need to actually have that legal description because we'll have to give this to the auditor so they can cover all their zoning and everything as well.
Well, from our perspective, we're just trying to accommodate the neighborhood.
Right. So from what I understand, you're removing 264 and 270 Water Street. We don't know what the parcels are, but the whole legal is the only one we have approved by the statute says an attorney who's competent. And I won't even say who it was, but we'll say they're competent.
Yeah, I respect that. What do you suggest, Joe?
Do we have?
Thing on hold for a meeting?
I would think that today would be the first reading.
First reading.
And then we have an Exhibit A that is, that's amended, that's approved, and we'll have a new letter of acceptance from that attorney. And then they can pass it if they choose on a second reading next week, or next meeting, which would be the 11th.
The applicant requests that you do what Joe said. Thank you.
Is there any, the work you're doing, is it something that can't be done in the current zoning industrial?
If you tell us to go ahead, we're going to go ahead. The only guys holding us up is you guys.
No, it couldn't be done in the current industrial, that's why we're going through the process.
I have the sidewalks or anything like that?
Well, the sidewalk was not the question, it was the location of the storage building on Water Street.
So we can do everything with the storage building?
They won't be doing the storage building then.
Yeah, I mean, the other stuff, you're just going to have to go through the building permit
Well, that ain't
process.
like at all. We'll fix our storage problem as soon as we break here.
Okay.
So we can
If you're looking at,
do our sidewalk.
The building permit, you've already got that, is that?
I've got, yeah, everything except for the, you know, at the time, the building was part of it too, the storage barn. So that part of it will need to come off of the building permit. So if you guys have worked out a deal, does the industrial properties then also for you need to be rezoned?
Possibly. I'll have to look at what we want to put there, but we can wait.
Okay. I'm confident, was that what Joe said?
That's what the statute said.
I don't understand, it says you need a lawyer, we got two of them sitting here, what the heck?
All right, said Compton.
So we will go, I don't want to stop discussion, so we have a discussion, but we will leave this on first reading and on acceptance, and then to be amended on the meeting on the 11th, correct?
Well, there should be a new Exhibit A.
I don't think anybody's gonna, everybody's trying to make improvements, we just need to do it the right way, so if they all can live with it, and then maybe next meeting we can pass it.
Mr. President, I just want to check, I was going to bring this up at the end towards new business, but my family's going to be away for the next meeting. I just wanted to make sure that wouldn't require a 7-0 vote.
No, but I will say, in that same venue, Mr. Peters will serve as your moderator at the next meeting. I'm the chair, but he can still vote.
Okay.
Any other discussion on ordinance 2922? Hearing none, this serves as first reading for ordinance 2922. Our final ordinance of this evening, we will discuss is ordinance 3022, first reading. Ms. Coon?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor or service director of the city of Jackson to enter into an agreement with the Teamsters Local Union 637, the bargaining unit for the Jackson police officers, and to execute the contract between the city and Teamsters Local Union 637 as required and declaring an emergency.
Can I have a motion to accept ordinance 3022 as presented to council this evening? Mr. Peters? Is there a second? Mr. Ondero? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Mayor Evans, I'll let you start with discussion.
I will tell you, and Joe may have to help me explain it, but this is basically a formality. We already have a new contract with the Teamsters. The process, because it's a police department and they can't strike, ends up to where a conciliator writes the contract. And that's what has happened here. This current police contract expired back in the fall of 2020, a year and a half ago. It was, by mutual agreement, extended for 6 months. Since then, it's just been laying there. We had went through negotiations and didn't reach agreement. Then it went through mediation, and we still didn't reach agreement. And with a police contract with a no-strike agreement, that then goes, instead of going to arbitration, it goes to a conciliator. And the conciliator makes the decision, basically hears both sides and then makes the decision and writes the contract. And that's where we're at. It has been approved. Both sides are in agreement on it. Not that we can change, just that we're in agreement that we agree that they say what the conciliator says it says. We thought we were going to have that to present to you guys tonight, the whole contract, but it's not quite been fine-tuned yet. And the printer was out today too, by the way, or our copy machine. So we'll be getting that to you soon to look at. I will tell you a couple basic points. They were awarded, it is a new 3-year contract, retroactive in calendar time back to when the old one expired in 2020. So it will, it's a 3-year contract that will expire next September in 23. Over the life of the contract, it gives the wages of a total of 6% increase over the 3-year life of the contract. But it is not retroactive back to the beginning, back to when the last one expires. It actually is, gives them 3%, I think, January of this year, and 3% in the fall of this year, and then nothing else. So that's basically, you could look at that as 2% a year, cost of living, or however you like. Then also the other main point is the employee contribution to the insurance goes up from 6%, which is what it has been,
to 12%, which is what it is for current non-union city employees. There are other minor details that have changed, but basically it's very similar to what it was before in many other details. There were things that both sides wanted to change and the conciliator did not change. So if you have any questions, Mr. Schwackhammer and I would try to answer them, but it is already in effect. They will soon, Mr. Reed's office will be trying to figure out, the make whole from where, because it is retroactive back to January this year, so they will be getting the increased pay, less the increased cost of insurance, less any other benefits. There were some small changes to sick leave, vacation. I don't think there was anything changed to holiday, but there are some other minor changes that I probably can't even tell you for sure what they are. You can ask, maybe Schwackhammer can, but the gist of it is there always is the raises and the cost of insurance. Those are the two big things. So when it goes to conciliator like that, it's law, it's done. They asked us to go ahead and pass an ordinance passing it, but if you don't or you vote it down, it's still law. It's there, it's done. Right, Joe?
The only challenge you'd have would be if there was something wrong with the process.
Yeah, right. Been a very long process, like everything else it seems we deal with regarding grants and contracts and unions, but we hadn't tried to hold it up. We've tried to push it along. It's just a very long process, but so probably within 6 to 9 months we'll start renegotiating the next contract with them. And hopefully we'll have better luck there.
Discussion. Mr. Andre.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Mr. Andre, is there a second? Mr. Bott. Discussion.
Mr. President, I'll just, for the record, the people spoke and voted for an income tax to support the police department. So, this is part that goes along with it. So, I think in the past, there's always been council-wise anyways, with these contracts, like a batting of heads, but since the addition of Mr. Esposito, I believe his name is, it seems like we've wrangled in a lot of the doubts and questions that we've had, at least for myself. I'll speak for myself on that, so that's all I had.
I might add that you mentioned that, the income tax, we've committed half of the income tax money to support the police department, and we have been successfully, particularly with Chief Hinch, rebuilding the police department, as you just met one new hire tonight, and hopefully meet another one here in a couple weeks. That half of the income tax still does not pay for our police department expenses, but it certainly helps a lot, and we can afford to rebuild as we are, and we can afford, these raises. I don't think there's anyone in here that thinks we're paying our police officers too much. It's really hard to find them, and almost impossible to find a really good one, but we think we have been. And so that being said, we still have to be financially responsible, and we are spending quite a bit more than half of the income tax for our police department.
Other discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Pop.
Yes. And if I want to clarify what I just said. What I mean is our total police budget is more than half of what the income tax brings in. We're not spending more than half of our income tax on it. You know what I mean? There's a difference there. But, we feel like we're making great strides in improving our police department, and I certainly don't think we're paying them too much. This conciliator kind of, he listened to both sides and decided what he thought was fair and right.
Other discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree.
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Ordinance 3022 is duly adopted. That is all of the ordinances and resolutions that we have for the evening. Moving on the agenda, I don't believe we had any new correspondence. Is there any correspondence that anyone wants to speak about? I do say that today I was contacted by Mike Costello, and Mr. Costello said he attempted to invite the council members and the administration to a meeting that they are hosting tomorrow evening at Holzer in the conference room, and the speaker is Rye Grant's president, Mr. Ryan Smith, and he was hoping that some would be able to attend because they were hoping for some feedback in regards to things that Rye Grant is hoping to put in and how they could be a part of the community. And then they said there will also be a brief recognition of the local scholarship winners and HOBY, and I hope I pronounced that right, H-O-B-Y participants. So that will be tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So may this serve as your invite to that, because he said that, like I said, they attempted to email an invite to all of us, and as I spoke here earlier, no one got it. So you're duly noted there. Any old business to be brought before council this evening? New business? Anyone have any new business to bring before council?
Just as I mentioned earlier, July the 11th, our family will be away. I just wanted to ask council to excuse my attendance for the meetings on that date.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crabtree. Mr. Schweikhammer?
Also, next meeting, we will have a representative from AMP Ohio. Jackson had a couple scholarship winners. They will be here along with the two individuals to receive and present scholarships this year.
Thank you, Mr. Schweikhammer. Any other things for new business or anything? Mayor Evans?
Of course, next Monday's a holiday, the 4th of July, so city offices will all be closed, and garbage trash service will be moved to Tuesday, as always.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else have anything? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Peter? Yes. Is there a second? Mr. Newkirk? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried.